Hey YouTube, just doing this video because it comes up in conversation as to why do people not really succeed and why do some people succeed, kind of thing. Well, I'm going to compare that with people who take who've been on Centrelink long term versus people who work, and main difference being is that a lot of the times, I'm not talking about someone that is being like disabilitied or yeah, has a reason. Like there's an underlying reason why they're on Centrelink that isn't related to their motivation. It's basically someone who's. I'm talking about the people who, and I say Centrelink because that's where I live in Australia. That is the welfare system, but welfare system applies to most Western countries that have a welfare system. And what's the difference between those people versus the people who work all the time? Well, yes, um, pure and simply, it is dependency. Okay, we've created a system where people are dependent on the government or dependent on outside sources or dependent on family or whatever. But they're basically the reason that our society has failed in that respect is instead of creating individuals who are independent and think independently and work independently and go out and actually they're driven to success, they're driven to succeed, and they're driven to survive on their own or be dependent on themselves, not on anyone else. That is the trouble with our society in the West. Is we've basically this is like one of the biggest issues. As you'll see, is there is a bunch of people from overseas, right? Or not overseas. They live in other countries, and they'll look at our countries and they go, "Wow, you guys, you get great educations, um, you got all these opportunities, but most of you, with all of your opportunity, have done nothing with it, right? You've been lazy and can't feel sorry for you because you've basically been given every opportunity in this world to succeed and you haven't done anything with it." And that's basically how people from third world countries view people from the West. If that is for the people that basically, are dependent on these welfare systems, etc. And that's a sad thing because the truth is that they're actually right. We, instead of developing people to succeed and yeah, they don't want to be classed as like just another number, just another person, just doing enough to survive. That's not good enough for a lot of people. Like, you have to be driven to want to go, I want to be something. I don't want to be what other people say I'm going to be. I want to be what I say I'm going to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to do one of those motivational speech things. Like, you've all heard it all before. You don't need to hear it again. But what I will say is that if you want to be, like, if you want to prove those stereotypes wrong, prove them wrong. Like, don't, like, put it this way. Where I live, there's a lot of farmers that need fruit picking and things, and there is also a lot of people in a town or a city that's about 30 minutes away, and they're all unemployed. And do you think any of those people look at that work and go, I'm want to go earn some money? They don't. They'd go, I'd rather sit at home and get paid to do nothing because the government will pay me so long as they keep doing it. So I mean, yeah, basically that's basically where we're at with things like that. So how do we fix that system? We basically have to toughen up as a societies. Basically go, you can't sit around and do nothing. That's not going to be good enough. It doesn't matter, you might not be able to do everything, but you got to start somewhere. And yeah, and then there's a lot of people that see, because a lot of this that you see is some people have forgotten what it's like to work. They've been out of work for so long, they just plumb don't know how to get back into it. And yeah, and that again is just reminiscent of our society creating a system of dependence rather than a system of individuality. See, the problem is we focus on too many things that aren't necessarily important in our lives, and we create weakness, we create doubt, and we don't encourage confidence and self-determination, and the word I'm looking for is decision making. Yes, we encourage people to always look to someone else to make a decision rather than going, what, I'm going to decide, I'm going to do this for myself, and I'm going to see what I can do. Can I do it? Can I not? I don't know, but I have to try. And then there's also people that set very unrealistic goals. They basically setting themselves up for disappointment, I guess you could say. But a lot of the times, yeah, they're not setting themselves up to succeed. They're setting themselves up to. They're basically setting a goal that's. For example, I know someone that's always been a bit of a dreamer. He's always had his head in the clouds, and he's never really been really grounded in real world. And he basically thinks that something's going to happen, and something he does is going to make him the next Colonel Sanders or whatever. And the reality is most of us will not be a Colonel Sanders. We're not going to go from being stone broke. Looking at, I think Colonel Sanders was looking at suicide at that time, actually. And we're not going to go from that to becoming a multi-billionaire, because, we started selling fried chicken or whatever. We're not going to have that great idea. Most of us are never going to do that. That is a very rare individual, and I think people forget that the amount of work that goes into that, and how smart you have to be, and how driven, etc. And most people, that's not a realistic goal, and they got to stop looking like that's going to be a thing, because that isn't our world. Most of us are not going to go on the internet, become an internet celebrity, make millions of dollars to make videos or something like that. That's just not reality. That's not reality. So what I think people need to do from now on is start thinking about what they can do, and have some self-determination and self-drive. I mean, look, our societies in the West are one of the most opportune in the entire world. Don't waste it. Don't be another number, but be realistic, is all I'm saying. And a good chance you will succeed. So, yeah. So, anyway, that's all I really had to say. Interesting food for thought. That's it. Peace.